Now, I'm just going to start with what I consider the top axon. Okay? I'm not worried about 1, 2, 3, or 4. All right? Now, if I'm looking and if I trace this axon and I trace it and I trace it and I trace it and I keep going and I keep going, now I'm traveling by way of my spinal nerve at this point. Okay? But I need to make sure that it doesn't go with the spinal nerve, that it comes back to viscera. So look what happens. As it travels, it's like a race car. It does a sharp turn. It does a sharp turn in a projection from the spinal nerve. So this would tell me this is a ramus. So this area right here, okay, this little projection is my white ramus. Now, and then if I look up here, do you see this other little projection? Okay, that's the gray ramus. They're termed communicating. Why do you think they're termed communicating? Because we're taking information and we're sending it somewhere. Somebody got inventive in lab that day, didn't they? Okay, so first of all, look at all 4 tracks. All 4 possible pathways. All right, look how all 4 of them take a sharp turn in the one that's the white ramus. Okay, so every single one of them take the sharp turn. Now it gets a little bit interesting. I'm going to continue to follow my first fiber. Okay, now do you happen to remember for this division another term that it was called because of the areas of the spinal cord that it's coming from? This one is the thoracolumbar. Do you guys remember that? Okay, so as I continue following fiber 1 did the sharp turn in the rami, comes back. Well, wait a minute. Here's a ganglion. So it came back to the ganglion where it was now having access to the chain. And note, one of the pathways it could go was down the chain. Now, as it travels down the chain, what we're seeing is an option would be to synapse directly with a post fiber in one of these ganglion, or to travel to an accessory ganglion and synapse with the post fiber. Do you see how I got that one how that's a pathway? That's an option. Both pathways take it to some type of viscera. Is everybody with me on that one pathway? Okay. Now, let's follow what I'm terming the second tract. So, I'm going to follow it. It comes out by way of the spinal nerve. It does the sharp turn like a race car. This one, once again, it passes right through the chain, passes right through the ganglia, makes its way all the way to one of these accessory, collateral, okay, ganglia, and it synapsed directly with the post fiber. Now, when this occurs, okay, when the action potential makes its way to one of these collateral ganglion, they move on based on where they're located in the abdomen. Because remember, we had a top one, a middle one, and a lower one. Okay? So depending on where it goes to, that's the viscera it leads to. So that's a second pathway that it can take. Now, let's follow the third path. What I'm saying is the third. Okay, did you have a question?
What is going to be
Basically, what is the impulse? This is what's coming from the areas of the brain that need to affect a particular organ. So if we look at this right here, where it can lead to, say, for example, let's say it's going to lead to, let's have it lead to the intestines. All right? That could be a signal from the area of the brain that's saying, help me digest food. Okay? Or, in this case, since we're talking about sympathetic, stop digestion. Because that's what sympathetic does. It stops it. So that would be, it could be a situation where a person was in fear, and that upper thinking, okay, that higher order thinking, it's going to affect those primitive areas of the brain that are going to control digestion. And it will send the signals to shut it down. Okay? So it's going to be whatever the body needs to meet the demand. Now, in this case, with the sympathetic division, for the most part, gear us up. But remember, for the digestive, the digestive system, it shuts it down. It decreases, for example, blood flow.
So what about the sympathetic helps with like getting like muscle?
Yes.
So why do sometimes like tend to dream or like?
Yeah, because once again, there are, like for example with urination, there's the skeletal muscle and then a smooth muscle of the urethra. And in this case, sympathetic's controlling the smooth muscle of the urethra, and it will release the urine.
You may have said this, sorry, earlier about the adrenal medulla. So you saying it snaps directly there? So if you were, let's say, having to run for your life, is that when it will snap at the adrenal medulla?
Yes.
But it only does it when it's like when you're essentially like frightened or in shock of some sort, I'm assuming, or?
Just the simple anticipation of something fearful, something stressful. It could even be something happy.
Okay.
You know, a lot of it is based on what's happening in that cerebrum, okay? Because the cerebrum is our area of higher order thinking. This is where we're going to find the ability for emotion. And this could be emotions of love, fear, happy, sad, anger, all of these different emotions. But one of the things that I tried to show is that even though that's the higher order, we still got the cerebellum and we've got the brainstem. And there's a connection between all three. Okay? And it's in those primitive areas where we're controlling life processes, the homeostasis of the body. Now, for example, if we have some of those emotions that, I don't know, can make us happy, can make us sad, can make us angry, that sort of thing. For example, what simply happens to your heartbeat? It increases. What about your breathing rate? It increases. So now you're in a situation where the body has got to meet the demands of that. And this is the division that's going to do it.
Is it always 4?
Is it always?
Like, it's 10 to 4, I don't know how that.
These are the 4 pathways. Because one of the things that happens, okay, when the sympathetic division gears up, okay, we're not just simply dealing with viscera, okay? We're dealing with smooth muscle. Where else might you find smooth muscle that is not within this area, the viscera? Can you think of anywhere else in your body? There might be smooth muscle controlling things. We've got, okay, the skin. But now what it's doing though, for that is it's getting to the blood vessels, which have the smooth muscle. And therefore affecting the blood flow. Because our body heats up, the one thing it's got to do, get the heat away from the internal organs. The body is going to take care of itself by taking care of the brain first, organ or the core second, everything else last. So if the body gears up, heat increases. So it's got to push the heat out. What about the pupils of your eyes?
That'd be part of that's not having to do with the brain. That not having with the brain.
It's actually smooth muscle. The pupils of your eyes are controlled by smooth muscle. So if the sympathetic division is gearing up, that means your pupils dilate. That had nothing to do with this system. That's going to all fall under genetics. But now the pupils dilate because if it is a situation that the sympathetic division is answering, okay, it's going to try to take in everything around you. What about your hearing? Smooth muscle. Your hearing increases. These are just things that happen. I mean, it's really kind of cool. Now, for the most part, however, we're talking about this division in relationship to the viscera. The heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the digestive system, the reproductive system. Is talking about it mostly in relationship to viscera. But there are other things that happen. Just kind of cool. All right, so is everybody kind of with me? Now, track number 3, once again, by way of the spinal nerve, I make my sharp turn. This time, it's synapsing directly in the ganglia. Now, depending on what area of the spinal cord that's coming from, it will travel along that spinal nerve and create an effect. For the most part, going to the skin, the skeletal muscles, and affecting those vessels of the blood flow. Increasing the blood flow to those muscles. Getting them ready to either fight or flee, to run. Now the 4th pathway, once again, make my sharp turn. This time it needs to travel up the chain. Once it travels up the chain, it can synapse at whatever level it needs to affect that area of the body. If it's traveling up the chain, we're not, for the most part, it's not going to hit one of those accessory ganglions. It's going to just simply synapse in the chain and travel to, for example, the iris, the salivary gland, okay? It could be blood vessels in that area of the body, to the lungs, to the heart. So we're traveling in the direction of where that action potential needs to go.
So does this only occur, like these spores may only occur in the lumbar region, or does it
Yes.
occur throughout?
Yes. That's why we have the chain, because if it's only the thoracolumbar, we've still got to affect stuff in the upper part of the body and the lower part of the body. And therefore, we've got to travel the chain to get to our target organ. So those are the pathways that these impulses can travel. If you think about how this chain is related to the spinal nerve, injury in these areas can have effects on those organs of the body. Spinal nerve injuries, as well as something such as a spinal cord injury, could affect those organs.